The Bloodline has officially started their storyline thread of something that fans have waited a long time to see. We'll also see what's new with Jey Uso, The Rock, and more. Starting things off with this new exciting narrative for the original Bloodline. Bad Blood was a big night for the return of Jey Uso and how he really saved the day for Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes at the event. But the October 11th edition of Smackdown opened up a new narrative for Roman and Jimmy. And that's the fact that the two of them together just aren't enough for the current battle they're in. Roman came out to acknowledge Jey Uso and thank him for making that big play call at Bad Blood. The mention of play calls is a reference to a few months ago, where Jimmy referred to himself as the starting quarterback for the Bloodline, while Roman and Heyman call the plays for him to do. Well, Roman is now giving Jimmy full credit for that play call at Bad Blood, because no one told him to do that. Jimmy did that all on his own, and Roman acknowledged him for it. Roman also made a lot of mention and looked back to the peak era of the Bloodline, and how they all had titles, money, and ran the whole show. He compared that era to where he's at right now. Roman said he's not a fan of the current position he finds himself in, of being out of control, but how they're still ultimately the ones. Jimmy goes against what Roman says and explains how Roman doesn't even have a tribe anymore. Jimmy says he's literally the only member of the family that still acknowledges him. And this was a big line from Jey Uso because of all the hidden context it contains. If Jimmy's saying he's the only member of the family that acknowledges Roman, is that confirmation right there that The Rock no longer acknowledges Roman Reigns? Last we saw, back in spring, The Rock did acknowledge Roman Reigns as the tribal chief. We've not heard back from The Rock verbally denouncing Roman as the tribal chief since. But Jimmy's line there definitely makes it seem like The Rock is out on Roman Reigns as well. So it's quite literally Roman and Jimmy against the world. And the main focus of this segment here appeared to be Jimmy trying to get Roman to look at the bigger picture here. And that's the fact that they're putting themselves in a ridiculous situation here that they can't win because of the huge numbers advantage. Jey Uso says he knows someone who could help him out, which is a clear reference to Jey Uso. The fans get hyped up and start chanting and cheering, but Roman Reigns quickly shoots the idea down by saying, "No yeet." Jimmy puts his hand on Roman's shoulder and walks out of the ring. And then at the end of the night, Roman tries saving Jimmy, but they once again get laid out by the new Bloodline. Jimmy's closing remark to Roman is the same line that he said at the start of the show, and that's the fact that they need more help and more manpower against Solo Sikoa. So similar to what we said after Bad Blood, Roman's character is still at a crossroads right now, having some of the traits and tendencies of his former self from the last few years, while also actively trying to change his ways into being more good than evil. So the character may be full babyface to the fans, but he's definitely a bit more of a tweener in terms of his current character mindset. Roman said no to the idea of helping Jey because of all that bad history and everything that has happened over the last few years between the two of them. It used to be a thing where once a superstar turned and was on the same side as an old rival, their history with each other was softly brushed away and they made up quickly. But now in recent years, we're seeing characters still hold grudges against former rivals, despite any heel or babyface turns happening. Which is a great thing because prior events and storylines matter and impacts on what's going on in current day now, so you gotta love that. So it's understandable that despite being a top babyface, Roman still wants nothing to do with Jey Uso. Roman feels betrayed and hurt by some of the things Jey did over the years, and Jey feels the exact same way. What it looks like they're setting up here is for Jey Uso to be sort of the middleman that brings Roman and Jey back together. No doubt, Jey may even be hesitant to even speak to Jimmy, considering their own issues with each other from earlier in the year. But judging by his words on Smackdown, it's Roman that's sort of being the stubborn one and wants nothing to do with Jey, even though Roman desperately needs his help more than ever. So with this Bloodline reunion, it looks like the first step will be repairing Jey and Jimmy's relationship before fixing Jey and Roman's relationship. And how could this be done? Well, it appears the brand split rules have been thrown out the window in recent weeks, with Raw and SmackDown superstars appearing on opposite brands galore. So if that's the new normal thing at the moment, Then how about Jimmy Uso sneaking his way over and appearing on Raw to try and recruit Jey all on his own? And like we said before, Jey's initial reaction to Jimmy should realistically be turning and walking away from Jimmy. Jey said it himself just a few weeks ago, his family made his life and career so hard for him. So it would be questionable writing if Jey just runs up and jumps into Jimmy's arms right off the bat. There has to be something that Jimmy does, some sort of big action that shows Jey how serious he is about this apology. And the best way to do this is for Jimmy to assist Jey in retaining his Intercontinental Championship. Remember that just last fall, Jimmy was the one who came over to Raw and screwed Cody and Jey out of the tag team titles. And at the time, that grew the hatred between the twins. So if they're going to do the opposite and try bringing the brothers together now, then the right thing would be for Jimmy to do the opposite of what he did last year. Instead of being the reason Jey loses a piece of WWE gold, Jimmy can now be the reason why Jey retains it. Actions speak louder than words. Jimmy would be able to catch Jey's attention more with an act like that, rather than just some plain apology. No doubt, Jey may still be hesitant and still want nothing to do with Jimmy, but the act of helping him retain the title should at least break the tension between the brothers just a little, and give Jimmy some more wiggle room to try to recruit his brother to join their fight. But at the same time, Jimmy's gonna also have to convince Roman to just let Jey Uso help. It's not like Jimmy's just trying to convince Jey. Jimmy needs to somehow convince both Roman and Jey that this reunion needs to happen. He needs both of their blessings or else it just won't work. A lot of fans are still curious on when we'll see Paul Heyman's return. Roman did mention Paul Heyman by name with his promo, but Roman did make use of the term Wiseman in his promo, potentially a reminder that Paul Heyman is still out there somewhere. So what could Paul Heyman's role be in this entire situation? Well, if Jimmy is eventually successful in trying to get Roman and Jey back on the same page with each other, then the next step would be to literally get Jey back on the same brand as the original Bloodline members. And that sounds like the perfect job for Paul Heyman to step into. Meet with Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, and for him to not leave that meeting until a trade deal is worked out to send Jey Uso over to Smackdown. It's the perfect impactful role for Heyman to have in this story. He may not be physically putting his hands on Solo Sikoa for revenge, but the act of him being the one to get Jey traded to SmackDown may be the best revenge Heyman can get on the new Bloodline. So depending on the pacing of the storyline, it looks very possible that a full original Bloodline reunion could happen in time for Survivor Series. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.